Sure enough, all Sony shooters knew this day was coming. After the release of the 70-200 f2.8 Mark II, Sony had to announce the 24-70 f2.8 Mark II. I just want to make this clear right now, this is not a hands-on review of this lens. Unfortunately, I'm not lucky enough to get my hands on one of these lenses from Sony at this moment in time, but unfortunately, I just wanted to share my little tiny bit of disappointment towards this lens. So if you was to look at this lens from a distance and compare it to its predecessor, it has pretty much identical specifications. But it's not until you look at the technology and the optics inside it, you see how much it has changed from the first generation. With a new millimeter focusing distance of just 21 centimeters at 24 millimeters, that's a lot of millimeters and centimeters all in one sentence, apologies. And having the weight stripped back by almost 200 grams, which is very similar to the 16-35 f2.8, you can already tell that this lens is going to be much nicer to use and work with. Speaking of the 16-35 f2.8, this lens looks remarkably like it. But will this lens actually replace the 24-70 f2.8 G Master version 1 for all users? The major differences come if you are primarily a video shooter. With a new aperture ring on the lens barrel similar to the 70-200 f2.8, and with the option to get rid of the click on that to be able to smoothly move between apertures, and the zoom ring having a smoothness control very similar to the 100-400 from Sony, just them two things alone will open up new avenues when it comes to shooting video. The aperture ring will help change exposures on the fly when shooting video, and obviously with the change in aperture it will allow you to go from a really shallow depth of field of f2.8 all the way up to f16 and further really smoothly without jumping between apertures, and you obviously seeing that in the video footage. And alongside the aperture you've also got the smoothness of the zoom, which is really good, because on the old one it was really stiff, and if you're wanting to zoom in and zoom out handheld it does get a little bit jerky at times. Not only that, but the focusing system has improved massively. Overall I think there are massive improvements for the lens, and I did kind of expect it when looking back at the 70-200 f2.8 Mark II back in September or October or whenever that was. And if I'm honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Sony did the same thing with the 16-35 in the next 6 to 18 months. But this is a message for Sony. Even though you have done the massive changes to the 24-70 f2.8, you are missing one tiny thing. Admittedly, all of these are a massive improvement over the previous one. If you was to go into the optics and the electronics, the focusing system and more, you will see it come on leaps and bounds from its predecessor. And when you look at the launch price of this new lens, you wouldn't expect a single thing less. But that one thing what's really niggling me is why only f2.8? If Sony had made this lens less than f2.8, it would instantly make me want to upgrade. I'm not saying that I won't upgrade to the Mark II over the Mark I at any point, but it would have been really nice to have seen an f2 version of this focal length. But where's all this f2 talk come from, Danny? Well, if you look at Canon, they've done exactly that with their 28-70. They still have 24-70 f2.8, but they've done a 28-70 f2. And that thing is the prime lens killer for photo and video. It may not have all the features such as the aperture ring, but just the f2, that's really nice to have. And that lens with these features which the Mark II has will just cover everything. I got to try one of the 28-70 f2 lenses a few months ago thanks to one of my friends, and it instantly made me wish that Sony had made a similar lens with the same caliber. So a couple of months ago when the rumours started flying around about the new 24-70 f2.8 G Master Mark II, the f2 was a feature that I really wanted on this lens. Yes, I know it wouldn't be an f2.8 then, but it would have been f2, and does it really matter about the name? I just really wanted an f2 zoom lens. We obviously know that it's optically possible because Canon's been able to do it, and I feel like Sony have given us exactly what we want in the 24-70, bar that one thing. I own the 24-70 f2.8 version 1, and I personally think it's really sharp. I've never had a problem with focus breathing, and I still really like that lens, but regardless of that, I don't think it's the most perfect lens, and I am more than happy to welcome these new improvements. But you can't deny if they'd announced an f2 version of this lens today, that would have just been the cherry on top of the cake. If you're a Sony shooter just like me and you're considering getting the new 24-70, let me know what you think about it down in the comment section below. If you want to see more content like this, then by all means hit the subscribe button, and if you do, I will see you right there. Thanks for watching.